What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Salesian High School for this exciting episode of Eagles on the Air, the podcast brought to you straight from our broadcast studio. I'm Steve Sallustio, your host, and I have a great guest for you today. Our guest is the parent of a current student and a young alum. I would like to introduce Ms. Beth Orecchio, who is here today from the Bronx, from St. Teresa's. Parent volunteer, you got a lot to offer us. I'm excited for you to tell us a little bit about your journey. And before we get started, anything?
I just want to say thank you so much, Steve, for asking me to be here today. I'm excited. I think it's a great opportunity to talk about Salesian and my boys, and I'm excited. I think it's a good time.
Well, we're going full on here. I've got a page full of notes that I'm hoping you can get me a whole bunch of answers on. And without further ado, we start every episode trying to get some different perspectives, and I think you have a very unique perspective being the parent of a young alum and a current student. So please, without further ado, what is your Salesian story? What has your journey been like so far?
I really had no connection with Salesian prior to Antonio coming here. I have no brothers. I went to an all-girls Catholic school in the Bronx, Preston. So I would say about when he reached middle school, my husband and I really started to discuss where did we see him in the future, what high school. Coming from St. Teresa, it's a small Catholic school, very community-oriented, very family-oriented. By the time he graduated, he spent 10 years there. So we were looking for a place that would have a similar atmosphere for him. Not overwhelming, small. I saw him in an all-boys school, but yet I wanted him to come to that decision. Safety was a factor. Transportation was a factor. Academics. We looked at a lot of different things. We looked at a lot of schools. And I would say, in seventh grade, we started to do the open houses, and that's when we arrived here at Salesian.
Well, if I remember correctly, and I'm saying that because I know I remember correctly, this group of boys from St. Teresa that Antonio came with was extraordinary. Okay, I remember these boys. I know they just graduated, Antonio class of 2024, but clearly I remember their 4 years here. But I remember them when they were 8th grade applicants. and it's a very, very unique group of boys, very smart boys too. So we knew right off the bat, or you must have known right off the bat, that he was going to probably get into all of his high school choices.
Yeah.
And we don't have to say what those choices are. Pumped that he eventually chose Salesian. Antonio was a knock it out of the ballpark student. But I think about some other boys that he came along the way with, and I'm thinking of Rocco Lepore. I'm thinking of Angelo Letta. I'm thinking of James and Philadelphia. Great group of kids from St. Teresa's. And I know Mrs. Finelli does a phenomenal job over there. Yes. And what I constantly try to tell families is that Salesian High School is going to be more of an extension of your local elementary school, especially your local Catholic elementary school, than you'll probably even guess. Do you get that vibe? Is that something that you've kind of felt too?
Yes, I would definitely agree with that. That's how we felt when we came to Salesian. Just all of them leaving from St. Teresa and coming here together, that was a great experience. But, when they came in that first year, it was COVID. So they just had a completely different freshman year than than opposed to Marco coming in. That first year, some of them were remote the entire year. Others came in on like Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. That freshman class didn't even meet until they started sophomore year completely. So that was just a kind of a crazy year for all of them. But little by little, I would hear him in his room, kind of like on the computer, and I would hear a different student's name, and they would make connections, and, their group kind of grew a little bit.
Yeah, it's great to see. It's a great example of what we constantly talk about, especially on the podcast, how the boys bond together. But like you just said, that group got bigger. And I'm sure those guys probably not from St. Teresa's, and
Right.
probably from other schools, Catholic, public, maybe even another grade level, but there's something bonded them together. And we're very thankful too, because that mom group that came with these boys, and I'm thinking of Christy, I'm thinking of Erica, I'm thinking of Debbie,
Yes.
obviously you, have been a great group of volunteers for us. What are some of the events that you've helped in? I know a couple come to my mind, but what are some of the things that you've helped us out with?
Oh, so many. The Santa breakfast, the Halloween event, the Easter egg hunt we've been involved in, open houses. I think also last year we organized for Teacher Appreciation Week, we did a breakfast for the staff, and that was kind of like last minute, spur of the moment. We decided to throw that together. It's stuff that we enjoy, but we also want to give back to the teachers and staff here and show support because, it's our children's school. We want to be involved. It brings everyone together and it fosters a sense of community. And I just think it's also a good way to get to know the teachers and the staff and the other parents that volunteer as well better.
I think that nails it, because I speak to countless parents. I'm always on the phone with an 8th grade parent, sometimes 7th. The other day we had a 4th grade parent come in our doors asking about Salesian High School and the experience her son can have. I think the theme is staying connected to your son's school, to his education, being a part of his education. And I think you're proving the point that doesn't stop when they get to high school.
Right.
Like, they're not too old for it. We're still requiring and asking for your help, very graciously, of course. But you can continue to be a part of your son's education, be a part of his life, not seem like overbearing, like the hovering
Right.
parent. And so I think that's what the theme is right there, which is great, because that's what I tell parents you'll get when you come here. I said, no, it's not like you dump them off and you don't see him again for 4 years. Well, you're going to be an active participant in his education. So I'm excited that you just said that. And a question though. So Antonio graduated in 2024, this past graduating year. In his senior year or junior year, I guess Marco was looking for
Right.
a high school. What was that like? Was it like a given that he was going to come here, or did Marco have to check the place out for himself?
He had been here so many times on campus with Antonio. We had been to a lot of the family masses together. He knew a lot of Antonio's friends already. Salesian was his top choice, but I just think being so involved already with the school, Antonio started working at Camp Echo Bay going into his senior year. And I remember that year, Mrs. Seifring offered Marco to come up and do his volunteer hours. So he was there for about a week, and Mrs. Seifring called me and he said, you know what, Beth, let him stay the whole summer. He is one of the hardest working kids here and he's not even getting paid. And Marco stayed the rest of the summer and just really enjoyed it. And I think that solidified it for him.
And I remember seeing him that summer too. And my problem is I don't want to take it for granted that, okay, Antonio is here. Antonio's having a great experience. He's, going into his junior year, eventually his senior year. Oh, and he has a little brother named Marco who's just going to come too. I never want to assume that, because I don't think it's fair to Marco that,
Right.
that he's just going to get tagged along. So I think it was great, though, that he got acclimated to Salesian High School, whether through Camp Echo Bay or just constantly seeing him around.
He did spend the days at a few other schools as well. And, and I said to him, I want you to see what else is out there. It does have to be your choice in the end. I had a feeling, I knew what he was going to choose, but I wanted to expose him to other options as well.
Yeah, and that's great too, because he's got to be able to feel like, all right, I checked everything else out. Like, Salesian's still the place. And so that gives that warms my heart, makes me love to see all this stuff happen, especially your boys. They're two of the best boys. They really are. They're the nicest kids. And I don't even have to say, Antonio's not even here anymore. Marco I have to see tomorrow. But I love Marco anyway. Okay, so coming up from the Bronx, transportation. Easy. I know you mentioned transportation was a factor.
Yeah.
Not too difficult in the morning though, right? How do they and did they get up here?
So We carpool. You know,
Beautiful.
when Antonio started, I would have driven him, and then it ended up being that we carpooled initially that year with COVID with another previous alumni, Ryan Turner. So we carpooled with Ryan, and then the following year, when Rocco and Angelo were both in person, that was the carpool. It was Ryan, Antonio, Rocco, and Angelo. And then Ryan graduated, and then Marco came in with James, and then Ryan Weber. So, you know, we really work together. We have a great carpool system. I will say that's what I love about it. And if you're ever in a car with 7 boys in traffic on 95 coming home, it's an experience. But, you know, now the older ones graduated, and we added in a few freshmen that are also from the Pelham Bay Country Club area, and it works.
That's great. You know, when you have the support of other families, everyone's got a busy schedule.
Yeah.
Everyone's got 1,000 things going on. So when you can do that, and you guys aren't the only group that does a nice carpool. I know some other groups do, and it just works out great. But I want to switch gears for a second. So we got the boys up here. Transportation is good, and you mentioned safety.
Right.
Okay, so I understand, and we survey all the parents that come out of our open house. Safety is a major, major issue, and that's, again, something that I took for granted working here for so long. When people asking, what's the safety like in the neighborhood or on campus, and safety is like it was almost taken for granted.
Right.
But it's interesting to hear that was and you feel good on that aspect here?
I do. I feel very, very confident that when Marco was here and when Antonio was here, just the precautions that you guys have in place from the texts, from the now this year you've instituted the boys have to swipe their ID cards to get into the buildings, which I think is great. A lot of changes over the last couple of years into the whole campus. I just think, you know, goes along with that.
We never want to underestimate how serious we take that. We understand that parents are dropping their kids off to us. And some of these kids coming out of the car, they're still 13 years old.
Yeah.
They're boys. I know they want to be men and everybody wants independence and whatnot, but they're boys and they need to know, they need to be safe. They need to know that they're safe. That is a big deal for us. We understand that. Surveying the parents at open house has been super helpful for us because we know what the parents want and we do our very best to deliver that. And so hopefully that's the vibe that, you know, not just you guys get, but all current and prospective students get. But you're involved a lot. You're here all the time. Your group of volunteers, especially the moms, are here all the time. And we know we can rely on you. One upcoming event we have for the moms is a paint night.
Yes.
And can we tell anything about that? We're currently, at the time of filming, we're selling tickets for it. Hopefully by the time this is aired, Paint Night was a success, but anything about Paint Night?
So Paint Night is going to be a great night. We have a great teacher coming in. He's an art teacher for the DOE. I've taken a class with him before, so it's a lot of fun. We're going to be painting wine glasses, food. I would suggest have it delivered to Salesian so you don't have to bring it. It's just a fun night out. We already have a group of sophomore moms that have purchased tickets, and it's a nice event.
Yeah, the ticket sales are going very well.
Good.
And it's just another way of us being able to say, hey, this is your son's school. We're going to continue to do events just like you're doing at the elementary school level. You're going to continue to do events. You're going to continue, even as parents. People ask me all the time, like they ask about my friends. I said, my friends. I said, I'm hanging out with all the parents of the kids my kids are friends with. So I know that situation is alive, and then we want to have those opportunities too and have some fun. Be on campus, let us host an event here. And hopefully, like I said, by the time this is aired, we can report that this was a huge success. But let's pivot real quick and let's talk about an event that I've seen you at for the last couple of years. You and your family are active participants at the Salesian High School President's Dinner.
Yes.
And I know that you've gotten to know one Salesian alum in particular, Mr. Sal from the class of 1988, and who is currently a member of the Board of Trustees. So tell us a little bit about your experience with Sal and eventually like what brought you to the President's Dinner.
When Marco received his acceptance to Salesian, in the acceptance was a grant for an Italian American grant, and that was sponsored by Sal Torre and his family in honor of his parents. And Marco was selected, and I think it's just such a generous and amazing thing he's done. He invited us, Marco, myself, my husband, Antonio, to be his guests and sit with his family at the President's Dinner. So we met Sal, his wife Gwen, their children, and for 2 years now, we've sat with them at the President's Dinner. And it just was a really nice experience.
Now, we're basically bridging, and that's the beautiful thing about Salesian High School. Sal is an active participant around here. I mean, we see him all the time. Proud member of a varsity basketball team when he was here. Standout student when he was here. Graduated, like I said, in 1988. He has a great group of friends. They still come to our golf outing. Active, lively participants in all of our events. But there is a, I don't know, 30-something year gap between Sal graduating and Antonio graduating. Now, I know he participates or helps by providing a grant to Marco.
Yes.
So now we're talking about, I don't know, 35, closer to 40 years.
Right.
And I know that gap is basically like Sal could have been a kid here just 2 years ago. Like he still has that personality,
Yeah.
still has a joy for Salesian High School. And it's just amazing to see, because I've known him a long time too, how, again, someone I've known here for a long time, helping a family that I've now gotten to know for a long time. And it's just like, it's like the story of Salesian just coming to life.
Yeah.
And now tell me a little bit more, because if I'm not mistaken, they just asked you to be a member of the President's Dinner Committee.
Yes.
Let's hear all about it let's hear all about it.
Well, I mean, tonight's the first meeting, so I'm not sure what to expect, but Debbie and myself were both asked to be a part of the committee. She was also at the President's Dinner last year with her family. I honestly didn't realize how big and extensive the alumni were until I went to the dinner, and how involved they are. So really, I'm really honored to be asked to be a part of the committee. I'd love to help and see what we can do, both of us. So I'm looking forward to tonight's meeting, and anything we could do to help promote the President's Dinner, I'd love to do it.
I heard through the grapevine that they asked Beth Orecchio and they asked Debbie Adario to join this committee, and right away I said, "Oh my God, good for you guys! That's great," because I know the value that you guys bring. I know the joy for Salesian High School that you have, and how much you're willing to help, and what this place has meant to you, to your boys. Same with Debbie. Philly's a graduate. We still have James here. And before we go, let's circle back. I don't want to keep harping on poor Antonio,
Okay.
but he knows he knows I loved him when he was here. You talk about this strong alumni group that Salesian High School has. Tell me a little bit about what Antonio's doing post Salesian High School.
Okay. He now attends Manhattan. It's now university. He dorms, which was a decision for us. We weren't really sure because we're not that far from Manhattan. It's in Riverdale. We're in Country Club. So we kind of discussed that, but I think it was a really good decision for him. He is majoring in engineering. He's doing well. He's having a really good experience. He's having a good time, and I'm happy for him. It was a good fit for him. When we looked at high schools, that was one thing. That was kind of overwhelming in and of itself. But then applying to college and the FAFSA, and what was he going to choose that was going to be a good fit for him? And are we going to regret it, or and it's a big financial cost as well. So he's doing well, and he said to me, this is the right decision. It was a good fit for him.
I think that's great too, because you have one of those. You have two of them, but you have one in particular that is, if dare I say, you could trust his judgment. Antonio was always a very mature kid, well educated, very, like I said, handles himself beautifully, either here or working with shadows who came from the neighborhood and spent a day here at school. It's so rewarding to hear him doing so well, coming from St. Teresa, taking the plunge on this school that you didn't know about, and coming here and finding a suitable place for your son, eventually for your two sons, a place where, and if you didn't notice, I'm just trying to recap here, a place where you were able to transport yourselves pretty easily through a nice carpool. You found a safe place. You found a great, I want to say a great person in Sal Torrey along the
Yes.
way. And you guys have done your part in giving back by volunteering, by constantly being those families that we can call on when we need help with this event or that event. Some of them are fun. Some of them are like, we just really need some parents to help out. So from everybody here at Salesian High School, I just want to thank you guys, the Orecchio family, your husband too, because listen, it takes everybody.
It does.
For being a strong part in your kids' education, both of them, for being supportive of us in all the decisions that we've made, for entrusting your sons to us, and ultimately giving back to us. So thank you guys for being like the model family. And I hope to God this story resonates with a bunch of people, and we continue to attract great young men from the Bronx, from Westchester County, just like we did the Orecchio boys.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much for having me here today. I enjoyed it. I was a little nervous, but we made it through.
It did. I said there's nothing to be nervous about. You just let me steer the ship. That's it. And I think you've been a great guest. I appreciate it. You brought a very unique perspective here, and that's constantly what we're looking for too. Is people that have something that might bring something that sparks something similar in somebody watching at home.
Yes.
And so thank you for doing this. We appreciate, as much as you appreciate being asked, we appreciate you accepting and coming on here. And so, Beth, that's all I got. I don't want to take any more of your time or anybody else at home. So for all you guys, this has been another awesome episode of Eagles on the Air.